I was just on Rock Your Midlife with Dr. Ellen, and it was such a fun episode that we did. Um, Very similar in our mindset about uh, just getting out there and experiencing your life and changing what you're doing. And if you're not happy, finding ways to step outside your comfort zone and address those fears and move forward and do things that make you happy and make you fulfilled. Dr. Ellen has great energy and great insight. So it was so fun to share our thoughts with each other and with the audience.
Welcome to the Rock Your Midlife podcast, your transformative sanctuary designed to guide you through self-discovery and provide the tools you need to find your purpose and navigate life authentically. Whether you want to optimize your health, boost your happiness, or deepen your self-love, this podcast is your ultimate toolkit. Welcome to Rock Your Midlife. I'm Dr. Ellen, the Midlife Whisperer, and we've got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking all about transforming your life after 40. Why midlife is the perfect time for radical personal transformation. And I have an amazing guest. She is Sue Willoughby. She is founder of Willoughby Coaching, and she helps women over 40 by using horses to find themselves. I know she's got a great personal story for. We're going to get into that in a minute, but I also just want to share with you an email I got from a woman the other day who reached out to me because she was really wanting coaching. And she wrote to me and she said, I am totally stuck. I can't seem to determine where to focus to find happiness in my life. I am unhappy with my job. I'm afraid to make a change. I have lost touch with activities that used to give me joy before my life was taken over by working too many hours. I'm feeling very unsettled and unhappy with many areas of my life. Where do I start to make change? And how do I sort through all this brain fire to determine what it is that I really need to work on? And so that sounds like you. I guess the first thing to say is common humanity. It happens. And I think it happens. And I'm sure Sue will chime in. It happens to more with midlife women than not, because I think we're like climbing this ladder of success, as our 20s and 30s and maybe even early 40s. And then we sort of get to the top and we look around and we go, is this all there is? I am not happy. I have dug myself into this life where all I am doing is working. I can't remember the last time I had fun. I played, I had joy, I laughed. And it's my joy to work with women in this situation, because I also find, like, if you're struggling with your weight and your wellness, I find that when we start to do more of what lights us up, when we start to, reconnect with those hobbies, those things that we like to do in younger days, or something we've even been thinking about. Like for me, I get on and I play my ukulele. It's a stupid little instrument.
Love it.
I studied music as a kid, and it's just fun. And there's nowhere for me to go. That's what play is about. It's about just doing things that bring you joy. There's no extra reason. I'm not looking to join, the ukulele rock band, but that's the first step, is just to look and see, like, what were the things that I used to enjoy when I was younger. The weight loss sort of wellness connection is, I find when women start doing things that they love, then they stop a lot of the emotional eating. They really are taking better care of themselves. They're happier. There really is sort of a brain wellness weight connection. When we are sad, when we're struggling, what often happens is we turn to food for our emotions. We're stressed out, we eat something. We're feeling kind of bored, we eat something. We're feeling sad, we eat something. So when we start getting happy, we actually lose weight. And I find so many women I work with, even though I've been a nutritionist for 31 years, a lot of times we start with the happiness and then the weight just kind of comes off because they're not doing all the snacking and the eating and the sugar and all of those things, and the alcohol, of course, to feel better. So here's a couple other things besides doing more of what lights you up. Embrace a growth mindset. If you put midlife in Google, a lot of what comes up is the wrong side of 40. And I'm here to say, I'm having way more fun at 61 than I've ever had at any time in my life. And I'm feeling like midlife is the right side of 40. So get that growth mindset that I could grow more, I could contribute more, I could live a bigger, bolder, happier life. And, also overcome those limiting beliefs. If you have these limiting beliefs of, I don't know how to do this, I'm too old to learn something new. I'm scared. You really want to work on limiting beliefs. And that's where coaching can really help you. Leverage your experience and wisdom. Yes, maybe we don't have quite as much energy as we had in our 20s and 30s, but my gosh, we are wise. You have experiences, you have things that you've learned, you have a lot to contribute. So think about, like, what am I awesome at? What are my strengths? Leverage that experience and wisdom that you have. Set some bold goals. You want to travel? Watch that channel show, buy that ticket, just do it. I know myself, I went to Costa Rica, about 2.5 years ago, and I bought a house. So talk about setting bold goals. It wasn't really my goal to buy a house in Costa Rica, but to travel. And I was super scared. I hadn't been like away in a country that I didn't speak the language since my 20s, since I traveled after college. So that was like a really big deal. So set some goals, whether that's your work, personal life, your dating life, whatever that is. Set some bold goals and prioritize your health and wellness. I'm always thinking about, like, what am I doing today that my 80-year-old self, my 100-year-old self is going to thank me for? Get away from all the cockamamie weight loss crap, all the dieting crap. None of that works. What you want to focus on is eating right, which is just eating more plants, eating more protein, eating less processed food, watching the alcohol, moving your body, not just going to the gym, but moving your body all day throughout the day. Getting up from your desk, getting a standing desk, taking a dance break, playing with your grandkids, playing with your dog, but just get moving. And that also includes working on your stress, working on your mental health. If you are struggling with any of these, feel free to reach out to me. I have been a dietitian for 30 years, and I'm also a board-certified health and wellness coach. Just go to the Midlife Whisperer, and I would be delighted to sit down with you and take a look at what's going on with your mindset, with your happiness, with your health. And finally, embrace change and adaptability. I find that we get really stuck at midlife because we keep doing the same old things over and over again, expecting different results. And part of the reason we just keep doing the same things is that it's neuroscience. Your brain isn't interested in you being fulfilled and happy and creating a groovy rock in midlife. It wants to keep you safe. And so if you do something like you contact Sue and you decide, I've never ridden a horse before, I'm going to get on a horse. I'm going to try this equine thing, which we're going to get into in this equine coaching connection. You're going to have to, embrace change, and you're going to get it wrong and you're going to fail. But what is the best thing that can happen to you? And I was talking with another client yesterday, and she was looking at all the things, well, I could waste my time and I could lose clients and I might not show up in the right way. And I was like, well, what's the best thing that can happen? So we've got to get into this growth mindset where we think bolder, we think bigger, because personally, I would much rather, I'm much more scared of getting to 80, 90, looking back at my life and saying, Ellen, why didn't you do those things when you had the chance? You have the chance. And so I want you to buckle in, maybe grab a glass of water, a cup of tea, maybe a journal, a notebook, because I know that our next guest, Sue Willoughby, is really going to give us a lot of really great gems, because she's got her own story to share. We've all been through things, but I know she's got a lot of wonderful nuggets of wisdom. Sue is the founder of Willoughby Coaching, where women over 40 confront their obstacles, who doesn't have those, and change the trajectory of their lives through the power of Equus Coaching. Equus Coaching emphasizes the profound impact of nonverbal communication and self-awareness as clients engage with horses, gaining insights into their leadership, communication style, and personal growth. She took great comfort in working with horses during some of the darkest, most difficult periods of her life, and she now finds fulfillment in being the kind of mentor she wished she had had in the past. Welcome to Rock Your Midlife, Sue. I'm so delighted to have you here.
Thank you, Dr. Ellen. That was an amazing, amazing introduction. Thank you so much. And I loved all of and totally resonate with everything that you said. There was one thing that I wanted to mention was the ukulele. My grandfather, my mom's dad, whom I never met, sadly, he passed way before I came along. He had a ukulele band. So I just love that. It's such a cool little instrument. My mom had his ukulele as well. So I just,
Do you still have it?
No, I hate to admit that I
That's
accidentally
okay.
stepped on it.
Oh, well, ukes are cheap. And I use Musician, and I think it's the same company. Also, I'm learning Spanish because I live in Costa Rica now. So I
Okay.
use Musician and I use Duolingo, and I find the gamification makes it really fun. And I
Hmm.
get a little better, and you can like score it. So that's another piece of make whatever you're doing to rock your midlife fun. So I guess I'm super
Exactly.
curious, like, how did you get into the horse thing? Did you grow up with horses? Have horses? Have you always been like one of those kids, like girls, like, when you were 6, like, oh, please forget the Christmas gifts, just give me a horse.
Yes, that was me. I was horse crazy. I just loved them. I loved the smell of them. I loved the just being close to them. And I had a camp horse, like the camps kind of in the wintertime, they don't want to pay for the care of horses. So they let you have them for free, right? You have to board them and feed them and so forth. But I had a big, I took in a camp horse one winter, and his name was Joker, and he was a big 16 hand. I like him big. Uh, he was a big 16 hand Palomino, and he was just a camp trail horse. And I had him in English lessons, and we did a little jumping. I took him to a show. It was so fun, and it just being around them was my happy place.
Yeah, they're amazing animals. I was saying
Mm.
off there, I'm reading a great book called Horse by Geraldine Brooks, which is all about this history of a horse. So they are incredible. So how do you use intuitive wisdom and innate behavior of your horses to guide your clients in building awareness of their subtle physical senses? So how do you, I coach, and I've been coaching for almost 20 years, but not with horses. It's a little hard to do over Zoom. But how do you use horses to help women really connect? I'm assuming you just work with women?
Um, I will work with men, but women tend to be drawn to A, coaching in general, and B, the horses. And it's funny when a man does come to a retreat or something, their interaction with the horse is totally different. So
I'm
they kind
sure
of
they
like,
I would bet they want to more like control it versus
yes,
be with it.
absolutely, absolutely. So in answer to your question, when my clients are now, there is no riding, everything is done on the ground. So clients are in a area, whether it be a round pen or an arena, with the horse at liberty, meaning the horse is free to move about. And they are interacting with the horse. And I'm looking at the horse and the horse's behavior for feedback on what they are getting. They're like a metronome, right? They're giving me what the person is really feeling inside. So a lot about building awareness and through nonverbal communication with horses has to do with our internal, what we have inside. So it's very somatic. So I will tell people to, what are you feeling? And then they'll come back with a word that is not a feeling. That's like, where is this coming up in your body? Right? Where is this thing that has bubbled to the surface coming? What are you feeling in your body? So I bring them back into their physical being, because we spend so much time in our heads that being in there with the horse, they're not in their heads, they're in their bodies, they're in the moment all the time. So that's a really key factor, is bringing them back into their physical self, grounding and being present.
Yeah, so it sounds like the horse is kind of a conduit. So the horse is like
Hmm.
giving you information and the horse is helping them
Absolutely.
connect with a deeper part of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Super cool. Animals are amazing. I know a lot of people have support animals because the support animals
Mm.
actually alert them when they're feeling a certain way, and they can help them to stay grounded and centered. So very cool. So how did you get into this line of work? When was that aha moment where you were like, oh wow, I could connect coaching with horses and really help people?
That's a great question. Thank you so much. When I was around in my late teens, kind of early 20s, I saw an ad for a summer camp for individuals with special needs, and they needed a horse assistant in their horse program, and that was technically therapeutic riding, which back then was, I don't know if it was even called that. So I wrote them a letter, went to they wrote me back. This was old school. Uh, and I worked in their summer program, and I did that for several years after that. And it was really interesting how, people that with autism, and or physical disabilities or whatever, when they were connected with the horses, it was so healing, and it would reach a part of them that they couldn't necessarily communicate with us. And so that was kind of my first diversion into that. Fast forward to, I had gotten away from horses, and I wasn't that connected with horses for a period of time. And then I'm like, you know what? I really miss that connection. So I ended up volunteering at a local equine therapy center, and volunteered there for several years. And I'm like, that would be really fun. I want to get more involved with this. But I didn't want to be an instructor. I really liked the horse piece of it. So then I got into equine uh, massage, which is a whole nother diversion. But that put me in a place to communicate with horses on a very different level. When I was doing body work on horses, I would be able to hold energetic space for them while I was doing the work. So it just, it's this weird path, right? Where one thing, if you're aware, there's always something out there. There's an opportunity, like you were talking about, that to try something new, to explore a new thing that comes into your world. And my path took me to the Coel Institute, which is a training program for Equus Coaching. And from there, I took the basic Equus Coaching level, and then went on to the Master Facilitator level, which allows me to do group coaching and events.
I'm curious, what do the horses think about this? Do they enjoy being part of this coaching process?
Most of them do. There's very few that don't. And it's really interesting because some of the horses that may, for all intents and purposes, appear a bit challenging for riding or for whatever, really get into the coaching aspect, because it's almost like they can relate to what the they can relate to what the person is going through, and they can bring out that whether it's trauma, whether it's being stuck, frustrated, whatever, they can say, hey, I'm here for you, and they pull the person in, and then it also brings something out of them. So it's a real union of the energy and the beings, for lack.
Yeah, that is so cool. So, you've had a really diverse career outside of coaching. So I saw in the notes
Say
that
that.
you've been a DJ, you've been a stand-up comic. How does all of this diversity of life experiences help you to support women and guide them when they're feeling like they're limiting themselves, and when they have a desire and willingness to get beyond their current life? How do you use kind of your life experiences to do the coaching work you do?
Yeah, that's a good one. Um, I I guess the way I grew up, my mom was an alcoholic, and I never really knew what to expect. So I kind of had to be prepared for whatever. And in doing that, I grew up very quickly. I was very self-reliant, to the point where I was, self. I thought I was self-sufficient. No one's an island, but I'm like, I can take care of myself. But it also gave me the ability to just be like, what do I have to lose? Right. So I would try things. And when something comes to mind, like one day I was sitting there and I'm like, oh, I'd like to try, having a dog treat company. So I started a dog treat company. I think that just being aware of when things come to you rather than just shutting everything off is huge. And that's what being around the horses does, is it really builds that open awareness. So I think that through all of my past life experiences, and I believe you mentioned something like this too, what's the worst thing that can happen, right? What's going to happen if you don't do this thing?
Right.
Then you're going to have regrets. And I always, I don't have a bucket list because, I've done a lot of things. Sure, there's stuff that I'm still going to do as it presents itself. I will approach it. But I fully believe and I'm passionate about people believing that they can, women believing that they can do what they want. And sometimes, like you said, I don't, you had that client that said, I don't know where to start. I don't, I'm overwhelmed. I'm whatever. And I think a lot of that personally can come from, and I have set some very lofty goals for myself, and you just get overwhelmed with like, okay, there's this huge thing that I want to do, but where do I start? So I think just knowing where to start, and sometimes I just like don't even think about where to start. Just dive in. It's like, okay, I want to do this thing. I want to do stand-up comedy. I'll go take some acting classes. I'll go whatever, right? I'll get up on stage and stand there and freeze because I forgot what I was going to say, but I did it, right? So, the other thing I think is, and this is personally my experience, that if you try something and you either don't like it or it's kind of not your thing or whatever it is, you don't have to keep doing it.
Mm.
You can do it for the experience and you can do it for the fun of it. You don't have to do it for the rest of your life. And I think a lot of people think that, oh, well, if I try this thing, then I have to be that, whatever that goal is. I want to, now I have to be a comedian for the rest of my life. Right now, just, you want to go do an open mic, go do an open mic, knock yourself out. Right. So what's the worst that can happen? People don't laugh. Maybe that's happened. Or you just have a good time and you just don't care. And I think a lot of things that hold people back, and you probably have, you encounter this as well as a coach, is that it's our ego that holds us back, right? You can't do that. You're not, smart enough, good enough, fast enough, funny enough, pretty enough, right? Enough.
Yeah, totally. And I think that, you raise a lot of good points of like, what's the worst that can happen? And you don't have to commit to doing this thing. Like,
Right.
even let's say you want to like go out there in a dating app. You don't have to commit to the first person that comes along. It's like, okay, this
Right.
person's not great. I don't want to need to commit to them. It's just sort of like, I can go to a farmer's market. I'm not going to buy everything, or a store or whatever it is, but you don't have to do this the rest of your life. I find the biggest things that hold people back, it's fear. And I think that's that ego of fear of, I'm going to fail, I'm not good enough, or even fear of success. And I have that sometimes. I think about, oh my gosh, if I grow my business so big that I won't have any time and I'll work too hard. But the fear brain really gets in there. I was working with a client yesterday, and we really worked on the fear testing. What's the worst can happen if that happens? So how would you handle that? And then what's the best thing that can happen? So getting over that fear. And also, you had also mentioned the overwhelm. And I find, it's great to write everything down and what the steps are, and then just take one thing. Like, I went away, I took my kid to Europe. He graduated from college, and I just weeded everything here in Vermont. And it's like, if you weed things and you leave the ground bare, everything grows. I came back, there were weeds everywhere. I had weeded everything, and I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, how am I going to get through this? I get through it a patch at a time. It's a wonder what you can do. Put on some gloves and like play some, rock and roll and get in the garden for 2 hours, and you can get a great workout and get a lot of weeds. But I think with the overwhelm piece, we got to chunk it down, maybe get some coaching, get some help. And I think the other thing too is that people don't like all the steps. And so get some helps with the steps that you're not great at. Like you were saying, if you want to, like, I want to do stand up, but I don't even know where to start. So like, there are lots of places that have, the support. Make it fun. If we make it fun and we make it pleasurable, even with movement, I'm amazed at how many people who are like, I hate to exercise. It's like, how do you hate to exercise? How do you hate to ride your bike? How do you hate to swim? And, go for a hike, walk in nature, go swimming, but just to sort of, again, changing to that growth mindset of like, how do I enjoy this? How do I make this pleasurable? How do I get through those loopholes to really help me to be in motion? So what are some of your other tips for stepping out of your comfort zone? Because I find like most of the women who come to me, they are what I call comfortably uncomfortable. They're, again, they're like in the job that they hate, but they're doing it for the paycheck, or they're in the marriage that isn't working, but it feels really safe and secure, or they're in a body that's really healthy, but they're like scared to take that yoga class. Or what happens if all of a sudden I change my eating habits, or I don't want to have as much alcohol and I'm not going out with my friends? Am I going to lose friends? So there's all of these, again, that fear brain of, I won't be able to make rent, or I won't have any friends if I change my lifestyle, or, if I leave my partner I'm going to be all alone. I'm going to be destitute. So what do you do to help women step outside their comfort zones? What are some of your suggestions and strategies for the women who are like, God, I'm so friggin' comfortably uncomfortable?
I call it the comfort bunker, right? Because we get hunkered down, and especially with the pandemic, right? That was just like reinforcement.
Yep.
We don't have to ever put on hard pants again. We can just stay in our soft pants. So, yeah, it's funny when you were saying all those things. I'm like, oh yeah, check that box, check that box, check that box. I I had about a 25 plus year career in corporate America as a trainer and a mentor. And, I worked at instructional design and everything like that. And it was fun and I enjoyed it. And there were certain aspects, that were in my wheelhouse, a lot of it. And I did enjoy it. But I got to a point where I just couldn't anymore, right? I just, like you said, you're stuck in a job because guess what? I was making a ton of money. I had benefits, I had everything. And I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. I had gotten my real estate license, so I was doing that on the side, and I was doing real estate investing. And I just remember walking into the office one day, and it was a Monday, and I just felt like my insides got sucked out. And I
Wow.
listened to that, and I was like, I'm done here. I'm done. Right? Not too many people like to walk away from a career, right? That like that, where I could have probably stayed another 10, 20 years. No, thank you. um, so I think you have to listen once again in your gut. How do you feel when you come up against those things? Where does this manifest in your body?
Mm.
Um, and what are you feeling? And then take a step back and kind of be the observer of the situation and say, why am I feeling this way? Am I truly not happy? Do I just need some other thing, some other diversion or something else, or to try something new that will make this one situation, whether it's a job or whatever, more palatable, right? But I was at the point where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So I literally went skydiving and jumped out of a plane. I went with with a bunch of my real estate investment buddies, and they'd been trying to get me to go. And they're like, "Hey, we're gonna, I'm like, let's do it." So I went. And it's fun. It was a really fun experience.
Not on my bucket list.
It is or it's
No,
not?
it's not.
Really? Okay.
I do so many things. I've been through breast cancer, blindness, divorce, empty nest. I've been in front of 6 million people on live TV. I don't need to jump out of a plane, but it's a lot of people's list. I don't know. It's just, I have no desire, but good
Well,
for
I
you. No,
would.
I think it's
Yeah.
great.
So that was just one of the things I'm like, well, if I'm going to jump out or jump into something else, I might as well jump out of a plane. And it was a blast. It was just really fun. And I was one of the last people out of the plane. So I was sitting up in the front of the plane. So got to see everybody else. Of course, you're attached. You've got this other human
Right.
attached to you. So you're butt scooting towards the opening of the door. And basically, there you are with your feet hanging out of the plane. And they tell you to like grab your shoulder pads and then look up. And as you do, he lets go of the plane. And then you're like, okay, we're out.
I can
And here
imagine
we
that's so
go.
terrifying. It was fun though. Did you have that moment of terror?
No, I was like, wow, this is cool. Well, I'm also a private pilot. I don't fly anymore. I'm not current, but so I always had said, I'm never going to jump out of a perfectly good airplane, but I did. So it was amazing. It was a beautiful day, and you're just out there, and you're at the mercy of the parachute, but it's a beautiful experience, really. So,
How
so
did that
that's
help
one
you?
way.
Yeah.
That's one tip.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. Like do something that scares the pants off of you, like jumping out of a plane. And that could imagine helps you to step out of your comfort zone in other parts of your life.
You can do smaller things too. For
Stand
example,
up.
well, and I think that a lot of that, like I don't want to leave this job because of this. I won't have any money. I won't have any. That's kind of in that, negative mindset, that scarcity mindset, right? Where you were talking about an abundance mindset. And if I'm alone, if I leave this relationship, I'm going to be alone. Nobody will want me. If I quit drinking, I'll lose all my friends. And here's the thing, right? Maybe those are friends you don't need anyway. Right? Maybe this relationship is not something that is good for you, right? So assessing what you can let go of that's no longer serving you, I think is really, really important. And I've done a lot of that in the past few years. Um, so even something small, like if you're like afraid to not be with somebody, you can go to a movie by yourself. A lot of people, that just scares the crap out of them. That's the equivalent of jumping out of an airplane. Go to a nice restaurant and have dinner by yourself. I mean, those
Travel.
are little things, but they can be big things. Even we get in such ruts of going to the same places, taking the same routes. Take a different route. Turn off Siri or whoever's directing you, Waze, and figure out how to get someplace. Right? Try a new route. Go someplace you've never been before. Take a little road trip by yourself or with a friend, whatever. I love a good road trip.
Yeah, so you don't have to change everything all at once, but those small steps.
No.
Even I had a client yesterday, just trying to cook different ethnic foods and just
Yeah.
trying something different. Picking up painting, she picked up. She wanted to paint and draw, and it was like she loves it. She gets in a different brain space. I think we really have to open up that creativity. I think a lot of what you're talking about working with is working with the vulnerability, and I think that's
Mhm.
hard at midlife too. The sense of like, I suck at this, like ukulele.
So
Like
what?
I'm not good at it. I'm just not, but it's fun and no one really cares. I'm just playing. But to do
Yeah.
something and say, you know what, I don't have to do this right. But I think at midlife we have this idea that I should be able to be good at things I've never done before. And so, just being okay with not being great at something. So having that
Absolutely.
vulnerability and the vulnerability too of like really facing your life. I mean, I think it's definitely the caterpillar to butterfly where we are digesting those parts of ourselves the way that the caterpillar excretes an acidic goo and literally digests old cells, and it fights it every way. It fights those cells that are trying to like
Yeah.
destroy itself. So we have to really destroy those aspects of ourselves to become more of who we really want to be. So I'm curious with your work, you talk a little bit about leadership, and I'm wondering when you work with women, I think we're all leaders. I think that's a big piece for me, big motivation for doing this show and for motivating other midlife women is that when we show up as the 45 plus and we say, you know what, I am a badass. I feel comfortable
Mhm.
here. I think we bring in this sort of ageism. I noticed this the other day. I was at a yoga class. I've been going to the studio for a long time, and I always felt like I'm always the oldest person in the room. And I felt a little subconscious. And the other day I went and I woke up the next morning and I thought, I wasn't subconscious at all. I didn't even occur to me. And I didn't even look around and go like, oh my God, there's nobody with gray hair in this room but me. I felt really comfortable. I realized I had changed. And I realized that I often bring, and a lot of us, I think we bring in this idea that, well, I'm 40 plus, I'm 50 plus, I'm 60 plus. And so I should be other instead of, no, I'm this wise, badass woman who is here to share, my wonderfulness.
Yeah. Yeah. Rocking your midlife. Absolutely. Yes. And I do think that whole self-conscious thing is very, very important. So um let's come on. What was it?
I was going to ask you about the leadership piece because I think
Oh,
we
yes, yes, yes.
all
Sorry, I
have
got
leaders.
lost in
That's
your
okay. Whether we're leadership, in our home, with our grandkids, at work, in the organizations we're part of, I think we all, even if you're an introvert and don't even like to be that person out there, I think we all, are the leaders of our own life and are also here to shine our light on the world and on other people and to make a difference in areas of the world where we see problems that we feel like we want to take a stand on. So I'm curious about how your work and all this nonverbal communications with horses helps people with their most important leadership qualities. How does it help them discover their inner leader?
Yes, inner leadership. It, Leadership is very important when it comes to horses. Horses are they're prey animals, which some people don't
What?
realize. Yeah, right. Okay, there you. That's the reaction I get a lot of time. Like,
They're
it's a
omnivores. They eat
1,200 pound
grass.
prey animal. What are you talking about? I mean, they are, and
What do they
that's
prey
what makes.
on?
No, they are prey.
Oh,
They
they are
are.
prey. I'm sorry. They are prey. I thought you said, yeah, they are predators. They are prey. Yes, they are prey. Okay,
Yes,
that I
they
get.
are prey. Yeah, 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 yeah. So they're prey. So that's why they're always very alert and they're, wondering, what is going to happen over there? What is that? They're very, very tuned into their senses and their surroundings. So when horses are in a herd, right, they're also herd animals. They live in, for the most, well, they used to. We've now subdivided them into their own little condominiums. So they're in herds, and when they're out in a pasture, even if they're in separate paddocks, you'll see them if one horse hears something and picks up its head, the other horses pick up their heads and they look, and they're looking to one particular horse, which is usually the leader of that herd, um, for guidance. So when they work with humans, they are also looking to us for leadership. And if we don't give them clear boundaries and clear leadership, then they will take the lead, and it may not be the most favorable outcome that we're looking for. So when someone interacts with a horse, it's really interesting to see how they behave and how the horse responds in that like hierarchical world that they live in. Like, do they trust this person? Would they support this person in a situation? Would this person guide them to safety if they needed to? Right. So that's how the leadership thing comes into play. And when you're working with a group of people, everybody's going to bring their own stuff to the table. And of course, if it's let's say a work group, certain people are natural leaders, right? And you can tell the confidence that they bring when they walk into a situation with a horse, and they're in there. The horse understands that that person has the congruency and the comfort within themselves, and because of the way they present themselves to the horse, that the horse feels confident, like, okay, I trust this person. This person is going to take care of me. This person is not going to hurt me. So if you don't exhibit those skills or that being, that aura to the horse, then the horse is going to be a little more apprehensive, and it's going to take some time. And that's when the coaching comes in, because it gives me the opportunity to say, well, what are you getting from the horse? What are you observing about the horse? And a lot of times what they're observing is what they're feeling, and they're putting it on the horse and saying, the horse doesn't like me. Okay. The horse, is bored with me, or the horse, and what they're really saying is, I'm bored with myself. I don't like me. People don't like me. And that's kind of that's their view of how they're being seen in the world. It's really kind of interesting.
So they're sort of projecting. They're
Oh,
saying this is
absolutely.
the horse and not me. So that's really cool. A lot of wisdom that we can glean. It makes me want to head on over to one of your retreats.
Come on in.
So come on down. So you're in Seattle. Tell us a little bit about your retreats. If someone is intrigued with what you've been talking about and wants to work with you, what's the best way to get in touch? And tell us a little bit about the group work that you do as well as the one-on-one.
Yeah, I do. I can organize. I can do retreats pretty much any place that I can organize a facility and horses to do that. So sometimes people will have you come to their ranch or a ranch nearby and host a retreat for their work group or their private group or whatever. I have rescues that I work with here, rescue facilities in the Seattle area. I also have a couple of ranches in the Arizona area and California, where I usually, if it's a larger group, like more than 6 people, will team with another coach, and we'll have a 2 or 3 day retreat. It's very immersive. Everyone comes, they get one-on-one time with the horses. They get group events and group herding and coaching. It's really fun. There's so many different tools that we can pull out over the 2 day period. And then they also bond with like-minded women in a setting where everyone is bringing their own vulnerability and their own stuff that they want to work on. So it can be really magical to have that intimate bond with the group members as well. And a lot of time, most of the time people do not know each other. So it's really fun to see those connections being made
Yeah, I think
with
that's
the
the beauty
horses
of
and with each
retreats.
other.
Yeah, people really connect when there's sort of the spare time. So you're not always working with horses that you know. So it sounds like
Right.
sometimes you're going to other ranches. Oh, it's interesting because in my mind, I have this idea like you have your partner horses and you work with them and it's all
Mm.
sort of contained and you know your animals. But it sounds like this must be a tremendous opportunity for you to grow and step outside your comfort zone every time you enter the ring with a new group of humans and a new group of horses.
Yes, yes, it is. It's just so fun to watch people have those aha moments so quickly, or they just they may just walk into the presence of a horse and just let go emotionally because they've been holding on to something for so long that they can sense the support of the horse, and it just like opens literally the floodgates sometimes, or a
Wow.
lot actually. Yeah.
That's amazing. So if people want to get in touch with you, is it willoughbycoaching.com?
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
and that'll be in the show notes. So if you are intrigued by what we've been talking about and you are feeling like, wow, I would really like to open up my floodgates a little bit, step outside my comfort zone, have some fun, do something new. Check out Sue Willoughby at willoughbycoaching.com. If you are interested in working with me, you can always go to the midlifewhisperer.com or just go to my website, get my free gift, 10 tips to rock your midlife, because truly midlife is the time to transform your life after 40. If you're loving your life and it's all groovy, that's great. But I think what can happen in midlife, and this is sort of like where I'm at, is that I have like longer range plans, but every day is like I can just see the next steps. I'm sort of, you get sort of on your path and life just sort of operates in a very different way, which is very, very invigorating and fun and joyful. Do you find that as well, Sue? That sort of just the right things happen, doors just open up, you're kind of
Yes.
like looking for opportunities and life
Yeah.
just unfolds.
Things present themselves, and when you're open to it, and they present themselves whether you're open to it or not. But when you're open to it, you're like, oh, that's a cool thing. Let's try that.
And I would say one of my biggest takeaways is that, if you're at this place and you're going to work every day and you're just like have to force yourself into that
Mhm.
office, you can't stand it, or you're in that marriage and it just feels like I just can't take this person anymore. It's a good sign that it might be time to do something differently, whether that's making a change within your office, within your marriage, whatever that is. If you aren't feeling good in your life, get some help, make some changes, because life is short. So thank you all so much for being here. I hope that you have gleaned some interesting words of wisdom here and you've been inspired to go out and rock your midlife. I'm Dr. Ellen, the Midlife Whisperer. I'll catch you on our next show. Welcome to the Rock Your Midlife podcast, your transformative sanctuary designed to guide you through self-discovery and provide the tools you need to find your purpose and navigate life authentically. Whether you want to optimize your health, boost your happiness, or deepen your self-love, this podcast is your ultimate toolkit.